Hello and welcome to Putting Nutrition First in Zambia with me, Jose Perry. On the show today, we look at water and sanitation and how they link to nutrition. We meet another individual with an inspiring story on movers and shakers in nutrition. And for our recipe, we have a fish-related diet. I'll be back right after this item.
We did 4 boreholes in Kanyama, and those 4 boreholes, unfortunately, they all silted. So what we did is that we decided to do another water point where we would feed the whole community here, which is over 300 households. So what we did is we did a commercial borehole this side. We have connected the 33 standpipes, and among these 33 standpipes, these are communal taps where an average of 20 households get water from there. So you can imagine if you were to calculate 20 households times the 33 water points, it means it is really saving a very big community.
Kuhitisha kwa soja nanga shinimudinyana nimudeya twamfari hawo hamu mulongo kuno menja kubura kushikiramo ira chikatata chifuna atachikukunwa wa menje twa mawahi nimusongo kuhitisha ndizina ukeha kumudanyana tuna sakiri rumani informant yetu.
So we are so grateful that UNICEF, who has always been our support in terms of water, is also part of this program, the SUN program.
Water is so essential for all living creatures. Without it, they'd die. And one Lusaka-based water company understands this so well, they have captured the essence in their slogan, which says, "Water is life." My guest today talks about water and sanitation and how it relates to nutrition. His name is Dr. Bishop Ed Chomba, Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection. Dr. Chomba, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Just immensely grateful that you could have me today on your show, but the pleasure is mine. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So let's go right into it. Today we're talking about water, sanitation, and the correlation with nutrition. It would be a good starting point to find out what your ministry actually does in this area.
I think it is very important first to understand our mandate as a ministry. That is the Gazette mandate. We are gazetted by the government and the House of Parliament to protect all the waters in Zambia, both surface and underground, and rivers together with the riparian states. But not only to develop it, but to protect it as well, and to equitably redistribute it to every person who needs it. But it is not only people that require water, but also wildlife and environment as well. So our Gazette mandate basically is about water, 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 and everything else spins out from water.
Ah, yes, I get you there. So let's talk about equitable distribution. When we look at the population in Zambia, do we have equal access to water?
I think we are doing as much as we can from the government point of view, but we can only appreciate the percentages and the numbers of people accessing clean and safe water by first understanding where we are coming from. Up until 2013, Zambia operated under 1959 Act that managed the water. That was left with us by the British government. That law was archaic and did not even speak to the needs of the people of Zambia. But also in that same act, it did not talk about water being for economic good. It only talked about social good. And as a result, the idea to actualize the water from reality to actuality was negated. People, they just thought rain is water and God gives us water and we've got to have access to it, when in fact it is not. But then we enacted Water Resources Management Act number 21 of 2011, whereby all the waters in Zambia now, they are vested in the president as a custodian on behalf of Zambian people, meaning you can't just use the water any way you want to use it. You're going to get permission, and it has got to be given to you the quantities that you need to use. And that's where we are today. But in terms of accessibility, we are standing somewhere arguably about 65%. Not very encouraging numbers, but I think we've done very well. Now, we are not stopping here. We are to push the frontiers to make sure that by the year 2030, there is 100% accessibility, not only to clean water, but also safe water. And we've got to ensure that tap water is drinkable by people. And that's where we are at the moment.
Now, of the people that you said have got good access to clean drinking water or safe water, how many of them are rural and how many reside in the urban areas?
Very interesting. In fact, I think we've disseminated and dissected the three groups. We do have the rural population, then we have got peri-urban, those who live within the peripherals of our compounds, which you might call, lack of a better word, as shanty compounds or slums. That is peri-urban. And then we've got urban areas. Now, in terms of, rural population, we are standing somewhere around about maybe 45%, because we are providing clean and safe water to our people in the rural areas. Now, remember, whenever we talk about water supply, we should not leave out sanitation, because sanitation is dignity for our people. In the time past, people never talked about sanitation, and maybe it is something to do with our own traditions and our own culture. Now, sanitation is bigger than a toilet, and sanitation is dignity for our people. And so we are putting everything together. In the urban areas, about 45%, in rural areas, rather, 45%. Urban areas, we are somewhere about maybe 62%. And peri-urban, we are doing the very best we can. We stand somewhere about maybe 50%. Now, on a national level, that's where we stand. Combining the three together, that's where we stand at about 65%.
Thank you very much. So, is there an obvious link between water, sanitation, and nutrition? If there is, what is it?
Well, very interesting, undertaking. I think if we open up our compendium, our understanding, you cannot talk about food security before you talk about water security. You cannot talk about nutrition before you talk about sanitation. If you have got very nutritious food and you have given to children and to the family members and they enjoy the food, but if sanitation is poor, all that nutrition and the nutrients will go down the drain. So there is that coloration. We cannot talk about accessibility to clean and safe water. By the way, water is not only for life and there's no alternative, but water is also food and water is medicine. But this type of medicine is not curative medicine, but rather preventive medicine. So the coloration is there, very much so, that when you have provided, clean and safe water to the people, remember, the clean water you give to people ultimately end up to be what we call wastewater in terms of fecal matter and in terms of urine. So if that is not looked after very well, where nutrition is concerned, what is meant to be good for our people can end up being poisonous for our community and our families and everybody else. So there is, the two are betwixt. You cannot actually separate them.
Thank you for that explanation. Now, what I'd like to ask you is, do you have any figures that you could share with us about the rates of diarrhea and how many lives are we losing?
Yes, we've got, even though statistics are basically arguable wherever you are, but I think the best people who can affirm the numbers that we have are mothers who nurse babies. Now, this is what happens, Josie. When you actually do not take care of children from the age of 5 and below, You give them nutrition, which is good. By the way, you know, our food is organic. And that is a very good thing. Now, you have heard a word that people talk about to say genetically modified food. Another word for genetically modified food, we call it Frankenstein. Frankenstein food. Now, us, we are endowed with very organic food. When you give this good food to the children, but, you know, sanitation is bad. We've gone into areas where you have got a community of 10 houses, they're using one pit latrine. That become actually dangerous for the children. So when you give children good food, but nutrition is very bad, or it is good, that yet sanitation is bad, you create what we call stunting in children. Now, stunting makes the body of a child not to grow to the full capacity, but also there may be coloration between the functionality of the brain into the child. And we have been wondering, and we are saying, okay, what has been happening today? Maybe just you and I will understand that when we are in school, we never rewrote our exams. Exactly. But now they are rewriting every year. Could there be a coloration between stunting and people rewriting? They go to school sitting for 9 subjects, they only pass 2. And every year they are rewriting. There is something wrong that is there. We lose about 1.3 million children every year as a result of diarrhea cases. And we know that diarrhea cases is as a result of either poor sanitation or the food that are nutritious and they have tended to become poison in the stomachs of the children. The way they are preserved, the way they are prepared, or the way the bathrooms or the toilets, if you like, the way they are kept. And that is alarming, because we see this happening every day. The children are having diarrhea day in, day out. And this is not the diarrhea in our culture. We talk about that when a baby starts teething, then they start to diarrhea. That is totally different. This is as a result of cross-contamination. And we have got plenty of that. So, yes, you know, when sanitation is not looked after very well, and then the nutritious food is given to the children, the two create a cross-contamination, and we have these diarrhea cases. But there is another part, which is even very interesting, because when we start having the mothers nursing the babies who have got diarrhea, these mothers will spend more time at the clinic, at the infirmary, which you normally call here as a hospital, and they can move away from their home setup. They can't take care of the home. They can look after the other siblings which are there, and it becomes a bigger problem. So you can see it creates a domino effect from water supply and sanitation to nutrition. Like I say, they are betwixt or intertwined. You can't separate them.
Okay, so the $1 million question here is, what are you as a ministry doing about it? This
is what we have done from our ministry. Remember, our ministry is fairly new. It is for the very first time now we've got one-stop shop ministry. Before, the Ministry of Water sat with local government, another time with the Ministry of Lands, another time with mines, another time with energy, and another time, you know, we are just all over. But now we've got a one-stop shop whereby everything should be done. And these are the programs we have put up. Number one, we have done a program we call Upscaling Nutrition. Now, when we talk about upscaling nutrition, it is conscientizing our mothers in the language in which they understand that, you know, as we are preparing food, this is from our ministry point of view, as we are preparing food for the children, potato chips that are cooked in fried oil or boiling oil is not as nutritious as porridge made out of corn and you put groundnuts in it. Now, all these things, we can't say they are not fathomable. They are fathomable because they are within our reach. When we put up programs such as ODF, Open Defecation Free Zambia, we can't have people go help themselves in the bushes everywhere. Otherwise, their whole entire environment is going to be like a toilet. And all these types of programs, and but also accessibility to clean and safe water is now made easy because now we are moving away from India Mark II pumps You know, our women are slender, they are beautiful in Africa, but every morning, they're very beautiful. And every morning, they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the India Matu pump, and they're pumping. When you look on their biceps, they look like they've been to the gym. We are stopping that. We are moving away from India Matu pump slowly, and we are creating now what we call the schemes. We go in the rural area, we find 30 houses, we sink a borehole, and we put in, you know, submissive pump. We put a tank up, we pull the water from the ground, and we put a solar panel on top of the tank, and we do a network in a village, whereby houses of 10 or 15, they'll have a tap now. That will reduce the time mothers walk from their home to go and draw water from shallow wells. They are competing between wildlife, animals, as well as human beings. And so we are doing quite a lot of what we call a mixed bag, only to make it easy that, you know, actually Zambia can actually increase the levels of nutrition in our children. Feed the Children program in schools is another program that we are trying to do. And these programs are really good because we are not talking about, you know, S26 or powdered milk or, you know, skimmed milk. We are talking about, I don't know in English language what you call intoyo, you know, imiungu, ifipushi, you know, imbalala, and all of that. All these are within our reach. Once we feed on these, we will be raising a very wealthy and healthy nation.
But at what cost does that come to the families?
Well, the government is doing its part by putting in quite a lot. We have got a president whose thinking is far-reaching than most of the brains that I've seen. We were talking about, you know, Feed the Children's program. And some of the colleagues, they were saying, we should wait for the cooperating partners to give us the money to feed the children. Then the president said, no, these are our children. We should feed them. Now, the government is putting in as much, you know, by making sure children are fed at school, to make sure that, you know, the cereal that people buy from the grocery stores and basic, you know, staple food is actually affordable. And that is the input from the government. Then we've got what we call the champions in the villages. And we have got also a program we are calling Improving Rural Livelihoods for the People. My ministry is doing that in Western Province, 16 districts, by making sure nutrition is spoken about every day, making sure accessibility to sanitation is there, but also making sure that clean and safe water is available within the reach of where people they live. And the government is doing quite a lot. From my ministry, I think we are talking about $1.6 million just as a seed money towards this type of a program, but that is nothing. And by the way, Her Honor, the Vice President, is also championing this to make sure that our people have got very nutritious food, but of course, concurrent with better sanitation and accessibility to clean and fresh water as per SDG number 6.
Well, that's all we have time for in this interview. I'd like to thank you so much for coming to the show and for giving us that very useful and pertinent information.
Thank you, Josie, for the opportunity. I'm grateful.
It's now time for Movers and Shakers in Nutrition. Let's meet one of those inspiring people from the community.
My name is Donalia Mwanza from Namia Farm Block in Chief Nyampande's area. I would like to talk about good breastfeeding practices. FANSA taught us to put the baby on our tummies immediately after birth and begin breastfeeding. The baby should suckle the first yellowish milk, and you should make sure he empties both breasts. We learned how to align the baby properly when breastfeeding. Mothers should help their babies breastfeed and ensure that they are satisfied. Babies should not be given any other food or drink, including water, except breast milk for the first 6 months. Breastfeed your baby for 8 to 12 times daily to ensure good growth.
naye nike kusogolo kula munganyoshe ka 8 or ka 10 times nyosha mwana ndipo tipunza zoti pakati chindikwa mwana mawa afu nikompikira porridge ndipo porridge atapika.
We learnt about feeding. Cook porridge for your baby in the morning and enrich it with groundnuts and green vegetables. Before lunchtime, give a snack like a banana.
Lunch tipunza kuti fungo mpasako chikonde waliako pombeza lunch time tipunza soti kuti pa lunch pamelapo lunch yafika.
At lunch, cook some shima for your child who's 9 months old and above. Add vegetables and mice. Ensure the child is bathed and clean. Before supper, feed another snack like pawpaw, and in the evening, feed with nshima, beans and mice. In the past, when we got home from the hospital and started bathing the newborn baby with traditional medicines, our elders told us to give the baby some of its bath water. But FANSA discourages us from giving babies any water before they reach 6 months of age. We have seen the difference now. Babies don't have stomach problems if they are given water after 6 months of age.
And for our recipe today, we have something fishy. Just have a look at this. Well, it's time to shut the taps on today's show. I hope you learned a lot as you went with the flow. Please don't forget to like us on Facebook and visit our website at www.nfnc.org.zm. I'm so grateful to the production crew. I'm Josie Piri saying, catch you later.
Of a nation, yes, it's the engine of a healthy land. Good nutrition.